It isn't always the software that's at fault. Over the last couple of years, I've had intermittent problems with loading Cubase and some Native Instruments plugins. I'd put this down to a software conflict between an update in Windows and an update to the various pieces of software I was using. In an effort to try and get round it, I did a complete reinstall of Cubase when Cubase 10.5 came out, and I've made sure that I've kept updating all of my software as updates have become available from the manufacturers. But still, no dice. Some days it would work like a charm, some days it would hang during loading, quite often on the Studio Manager bit. It got very frustrating, and it was even worse when I tried to load Native Instruments plugins into Cubase. Sometimes Contact would take 3 or 4 minutes to load, just the actual program itself, never mind the instruments. And certain plugins, particularly the classic studio reverbs, the RC24 and the RC48, could take forever to load. You could go away and make a cup of coffee and come back and they would just about be ready to use. It all got very frustrating, which is particularly frustrating as I like the RC24 and the RC48, Native Instruments recreation of the classic H1n reverbs from the 80s. Being someone who likes music from the 80s, I like the sound of them. All in all, it was a bit frustrating, but I learnt to live with it. Until last week. I'd noticed that one of my external drives, my T drive, was becoming unreliable. I was beginning to get a twitchy feeling about it. So I decided to replace it. And I replaced it with a nice, shiny new Western Digital 4 terabyte desktop drive. Now, it's a 5400 RPM hard drive, so it's not one I'm going to use for samples. I tend to use the T drive, what is now the W drive, for archiving old video footage, old projects. Anything that I'm not going to need but I just don't want to delete goes on that drive. Much to my surprise, when I stopped using the old T drive and started using the new Western Digital drive, all my problems with loading Cubase and loading Native Instruments plugins went away. So this is the villain of the piece. It is a Medion hard drive to go. Now, the reason they're called that is that back in the day, I had a Medion tower system about 10 years ago, which gives you an idea of how old this drive is. So I was perhaps pushing my luck, still trying to use a 10-year-old hard drive. But these were designed to sit on top of Medion tower PCs at the time, and what happened was they were hot swappable. The connectors here allowed you to just click it into a bay on the top of the computer, and you could, in theory, replace them. I had 2 of these. This is a terabyte, which is why it was the T drive. And I had another one, which is my M drive. Now, the M drive started acting the goat about 6 months ago. So I was not convinced that it was the disk that was faulty, but the controller. And I swapped that out to a new drive housing that I got off Amazon. And lo and behold, that drive is continuing to work. Again, it's a mechanical drive, it's not a solid state drive, but it's continuing to work. This one, however, has met its maker, because I'm not convinced that it isn't the drive itself which is about to fail. So this will quietly go in a corner, gather some dust, and then one day it will come to an untimely end when I have a sledgehammer. In the meantime, I am now ready to carry on making music with a lot less sitting around waiting for stuff to load. So the moral of the story is it's not always the software that's at fault. If you've got external drives and you're having problems with things loading, try disconnecting them and see perhaps if the problem doesn't lie elsewhere. Perhaps this will solve a problem for 1 or 2 of you. But in the meantime, until next time. You take care of yourselves.